boys and girls, corn dog lovers of all ages. Welcome to In the Box with your hosts, Matt and Adam.
Everybody get...
Good evening, MASL family. Welcome to In the Box Live, Monday, August 9th, 2021. Our very special guest, JP Dellacamera, newly appointed President of Communications and Media for the MASL, and of course, longtime voice of all things soccer in the United States. JP, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Adam. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks for joining. Glad we were finally able to get you on here. We've been anxiously awaiting talking to someone. We do these shows. We did them every week during COVID and during the off season last year, and then during the season we kind of moved over to a recap of the games. And then the season's ending, and we didn't really know what to do. So we decided to take some breaks and see what we could do. And then the new announcement was made for you guys to come on board. So happy to have you.
Pleased that you're having us on. I know that a lot of people that follow the indoor game listen to you guys, watch your show, listen to it. And so I'm glad that we were able to make this appearance. We're excited. We've hit the ground running. I think we started in early June, and it's been nonstop, as you might imagine. Lots of catching up for us to do. We were not involved in this league since probably, decades really for me. Keith's last involvement was probably as a coach, and Shep's might have been as a player. So we've been away from it a long time. We've followed it, still love it. And now we're trying to contribute to it and make it the best league that we can. Sure.
So I know you've been asked this a lot. I've heard this on a number of shows. But for our viewers here, tell us how this came to be. We're going to call you the Big Three, and I don't think you're ever going to shed that nickname. You might as well embrace it. So how did the Big Three in the MASL come to be?
Well, the Big Three have always been friends, as you call them, always been friends. And we were aware that the job was posted by the Major Arena Soccer League for a commissioner. And we all talked about it one day, and nobody wanted to do it on their own. I think Keith would have been the logical choice if he wanted to do it by himself. But we all talked, and somebody, I don't know which of the three of us, I don't think it was me, but one of us said, why don't all three of us apply it? And it was like, well, how would that work? Well, we'll figure it out. It's either three of us or none of us. And if the owners want to talk to us about maybe splitting it up, we're not as interested. We'll do it if we're all together. And we didn't really have any expectations, had no idea. It's never been done before. Three people applying for one job. As it turned out, initially, we didn't get an offer, didn't get an interview, and we thought, well, we gave it a try. The only frustrating thing was I thought somebody would have probably wanted to talk to us just to see how it would have worked. We thought that we would have at least piqued their interest. And then a few weeks later, something had changed, and they reached out to us, and maybe 2 or 3, I think it was 3 Zoom calls later, we started talking, and then they made the decision to go with us. So it was something that the three of us wanted to do together. None of us thought we could do it on our own. And we were lucky in a sense that the owners, or the executive committee first, the search committee first, I guess, then the executive committee, then the owners approved us, because I think it was a big step for them. It was a leap of faith for them. They've spent more money than they initially wanted to for a commissioner by hiring 3 of us, and they're putting their faith in us. So now it's up to us to deliver.
I think the fact, based on everyone who knows anything about this sport, the fact that the owners were all able to come to a consensus and agree on something is a big step in the right direction.
Well, you need that, right? I mean, you're only as strong as really your weakest, right? Whether it's owners, players, coaching staff, realistically, you've got to be strong together. You've got to get some support. And we knew that not everybody would be in favor of us coming on. We never expected to get unanimous approval, but we thought if we get a majority to approve of us, that's good. And then our goal is to keep the ones that wanted us in our corner and supporting us, and convert those that were against us for whatever reason that they were. And it's their prerogative, it's their choice. We don't hold any bad feeling or ill will towards anyone that said we don't want those three guys. It's their money, it's their league. They could do whatever they want.
Sure, that makes sense. So how getting maybe a little bit more personal for you? How much of the MASL is your time dedicated to? Because I know you have a number of things that you do with your time these days.
Well, they asked us, the owners, how many hours are you going to do this for? And we all said to a man the same thing. No set hours, no 40-hour week, no 60-hour week, whatever it is. Our answer is whatever it takes. So I'm doing this interview with you. It's 10 p.m. Eastern time. Normally I'm asleep now because I'm waking up early. So it's whatever it takes, right? If you wanted to do this at 7 in the morning and I was doing it, that's part of what we're supposed to do. So we're not going to complain and say we're doing more hours than we thought, or we're not doing as many as we thought. We'll do whatever it takes. That's been our motto from day one, and we'll continue to do that.
Sounds good. So you're the president of communications and media. So I'm going to try to, and actually for everyone who knows me and what I've talked about in this show, I'm real big on the broadcasts and the standards and the league and the team images. And I know I listened to your interview with Craig Elston, and I think you nailed, really what a lot of the things that we've been saying over the years. So talk about some of the broadcast standards that you want to implement, how you can get some of the teams that maybe aren't there back on board. Some of the maybe the arenas who aren't even capable of doing what you'd want to do, what your plan on dealing with them is.
Well, first, Adam, we've sent out surveys to find out, what the wireless reception is like, what lighting is like in various buildings, how much control some of our teams have on game night. We need to get all of the answers to that before we can go out and make concrete plans. But our thought is this: whether we're on a 2-hour, 2.5-hour locally televised game, whether it's a streaming thing that we're doing, whether it's a regional thing, national thing, doesn't really matter. This is our image. This is our commercial, right? If we're on the air for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, it might be the only time somebody sees our product. So it's got to be good, right? Because they may not give us another shot. And by what I mean with the product, they have to like the game, which I think they will. I think our players are good. Our teams are good. The product itself, I don't see a problem with that. So I think the game itself is attractive to somebody that's watching it. So what does the carpet look like? What do the players' uniforms look like? What does the ball look like on television? What is the atmosphere there? Are there fans in the seats? Are they banging on the glass? Is the ball out of play too many times? This is us, right? So, and we had a conversation the other day with our coaches, and our coaches know they're part of selling this game, right? So we've said to them, things may not go your way. We understand that, but don't trash the league, right? Because if we're all on air talking about how bad this is, or how bad that is, or how bad the building is, or how bad the referee is, we're telling people not to watch. And we don't want to do that, right? I told a story the other night on one of our calls of years ago. I worked for a minor league hockey team, and the owner thought our building, the lease was bad. He didn't like the building. He wanted a new building. So he was telling everybody how bad it was. And let's keep pushing that out in the media, how, conditions are not right. It's not a good building. It's not good for our fans. And turns out, the team's not there anymore because we told enough people the experience is not good. Well, so why would they come, right? So, if you've just played a game, you've lost, calls didn't go your way, that's okay. Trash it privately, but let's, and we're not trying to sugarcoat anything, but let's sell ourselves. This is us. This is our product, right? So the better we all look and sound, the better it is for the league.
Totally agree. So that said, what are some of your immediate plans for, let's say right away for this next season coming up?
Well, the first thing that we want to do is establish some kind of a streaming partner. It'll probably be easier to do that with an international broadcaster first. The difficult part, Adam, is that right now we don't have a schedule. So I think it's harder to talk to broadcast partners without a schedule, because we can't even say to them, for example, we're going to play Saturday nights from November to February. I mean, we could probably say that, but how many teams will play Saturday nights? How many will play Sunday? How many will play Friday? If we want a game of the week, for example, I like Fridays myself because I think it's a bad night for television and a bad night for sports television. So that would be what I would like to do. But what if our teams can't get Friday dates, right? Or what if our teams don't want Friday dates for whatever reason? So, we're a long ways off from that. But my goal would be to get a streaming deal internationally, a separate streaming deal within the United States and possibly Canada, possibly Mexico, and then some kind of an over-the-air package, no promises, because we don't know. I don't know what the network reaction is going to be. I don't know what we can offer them. Can we offer them Friday night package, 10 weeks? Can we offer them something that they would want? You see what it's like now with the streaming, right? With and I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's Peacock, there's Paramount, there's ESPN Plus. There's so many out there, right? And they've got so much product. So I'd like to think there's room for us there. But then I see, somebody signing this league, somebody signing this league, somebody signing another league. Lionel Messi is supposedly going to Paris Saint-Germain. That's going to make the French rights a little bit more valuable. So, we don't want to be on some platform where we disappear. We want to be somewhere where we can be seen. So that's the hope, and it's realistic. We're not thinking it's going to be like the old days, because in the old days we had the game of the week on ESPN, but there was no outdoor soccer in this country. So we were it. Those were the glory days of indoor soccer in terms of television. It was the MISL game of the week, or there was no soccer. That was it. Those days are gone now, because now you've got any league that you want to watch in the world, you could receive, Adam, either on your smartphone, on your tablet, on your television. You can watch them all. So, and we think there's a market to watch us. That's what we're gambling on.
I think so. I definitely think so. And if I kind of adding my 2 cents in, and everyone's going to roll their eyes at me in the chat. I've been saying for a while that exactly what you said on Craig's broadcast. When somebody turns on, and what you said a couple minutes ago, when somebody turns on a game, who's never seen the sport before, those first 30 seconds maybe are crucial. And if they see, and I joke about around, the back of the ref's head, or the turf with the torn up parts on it that makes the ball turn green, and everyone knows who I'm talking about, and no stands in the fans, or the game that cuts to the crowd more than it shows the game, and things like that. I know a lot of those problems have been explained away over time, and I mean, I think the bottom line is money. But there's things like arenas have special contracts, they're union shops, they're somebody owns the turf, somebody else owns the cameras, a number of things like that. Are you looking eventually, and maybe not first year, but maybe down the road, to do something like a ESPN satellite truck where they provide the entire package and they come in, they set up, and then they leave? Or are you looking to keep with the equipment and the facilities that are there right now?
No, that would be the ideal world, Adam. If an ESPN, if a CBS, if somebody, NBC, somebody, wanted to pay for it, yeah, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in our first year. But we've had things put into our budget that we did get approved, where we believe we can enhance things. So if, for argument's sake, we had a 10-game package somewhere where we're picking the games, I want games televised, first of all, where the atmosphere is the best. Where does our product sell? If we have a team that's getting I'll just throw this out because I doubt we have a team in this category. But if we have a team where the building is dark, or there's 1,000 people in the seats, or the way they seat people, it looks empty even if it's not empty. We don't want to televise there, right? We want to televise where there's an atmosphere, where there's a crowd, where it's loud, where it's noisy, where it's colorful. That's what we want. And if we have these situations where um, in Kansas City, in St. Louis, in Baltimore, where we think, um, you know what, their show is okay, but could we put an extra camera in there? Could we get a producer that's done more soccer in there, a director that's done more soccer? Could we find more experienced cameramen? Is there a better way to broadcast this game? We put some money in the budget where we can take some of that money to enhance the game, especially if it's going to be broadcast somewhere other than streaming. And even if it is streaming, we can make those better as well. So I think that you don't want all the games to look alike, right? Or sound alike, because I would never tell another announcer what to say, just to be professional.
Sure.
Call the game as you see it, right? We're not trying to tell people what to say or how to cover it, how to cover a game. But for sure, if we're watching a game and we see cutaways and they're missing game action, we'll speak to them for sure, 100%, because that's not the way we're supposed to do it. We want to sell the game, show the crowd, cut away to the coach, cut away to the bench, cut away to the stands, cut away all you want. But when that ball's in play, especially in indoor soccer, cannot miss a goal. Just like with hockey, cannot miss a goal. I don't care if there's 8 goals in the game, 10 goals in the game, inexcusable to miss a goal. More so in outdoor soccer, because that might be the only goal.
Right.
And you've missed it because you're on a replay, you're on something else. So, we'll watch this stuff. I would think that I haven't seen enough of the games. You've seen more than I have, Adam. So I can't address, if you told me that one team did a poor job, I can't comment on it. I probably haven't seen it. But I would say this to you, that we will watch the games and hope that we can tweak things to make it better. But we don't want everybody to look alike. We don't want everyone to sound alike, but we do want to have professional. I don't want to say minimum standards. That doesn't sound good. That sounds like you're accepting minimum. I don't want that. We want to have good professional standards where somebody could watch it and be impressed with it.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So our last show, we actually did a show about 3.5 weeks ago. I went over all of the teams from the broadcast in essentially the last 2 seasons, because we only had 7 last season. And in my opinion, of the 16 teams, there were only 3 that are really ready for that prime time slot right now.
Who are the 3? You can mention them.
So the 3 that I thought were Utica, Kansas City, and San Diego. And what I'm saying is like right now on a beIN Sports, on a NBCSN, with no changes, their broadcast would be fine.
Right.
I had another 6 that would be within some small minor changes could be there. And the rest, I mean, Craig made a mention of, there's one camera with a guy screaming into the microphone, and everyone knows that's Turlock. And we love Turlock, but we hate to love Turlock, because it's a rec center and it's a guy screaming in the microphone. But the energy, for me, I would hate to lose that, but I don't want to have the general public seeing that.
No,
I don't want
Adam,
this to go to.
You know what? I mean, regardless of how many teams we have, right? They don't all have to be on TV. They can all be on TV, but not necessarily at home, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? Like in the old days of the NHL, before they were on NBC, I'm going back years, right? They always had Gretzky on. They always had Edmonton on because it was Gretzky, right? And some people would complain because, why isn't my team on? Why isn't this team on? Well, it's Gretzky, right?
Yeah.
And in other cases, in today's world, they want the major markets on, right? So you'll see, games in New York, maybe more than some of the other games, teams that are more successful, you'll see, Tampa Bay Lightning probably get on more because they're 2-time Stanley Cup champions, right? So I think that in our case, if we were going to do, let's say, a 10-game package, we want to pick the best places where the atmosphere is good, where we can look at this and say, this is our 2-hour or 2.5-hour window. This is where we're selling the league. And these are the games that we have. And if owners say, why aren't my games on? We would say simply, we don't think that, for whatever reason, product isn't good enough. Not enough people in the seats. Carpet needs to be replaced. Field doesn't look good. Arena's too dark. Don't like the production. Whatever that happens to be, but we want to do it in a positive way so that they feel like, all right, we'll step it up. You know, if we want to be on television like St. Louis is, or Kansas City is, or San Diego is, you tell us what we have to do. I mean, that's the way we want to do it. We want to build people up. We don't want to bring people down. We want to bring everything up. And I was telling Craig this the other day, if we could make everything better, give me a percentage, 20%. I'm not greedy. If we could make every part of what we do 20% better, we've done a magnificent job. 20%. That's a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you do that in many different areas, right? I'd rather do 20% improvement, this, and this, rather than improve one thing 100%, because then we're going to miss other areas that need improving.
Then you have the fans that say, "Oh, they didn't do this one thing that I want to do."
They'll probably say that anyway, and that's fine. I mean, hey, I mean, they're paying the money, right? They have a right to their opinion. That's their voice. They can cheer, they can boo, they can do, they can do whatever. But we respect that, and we want that. We want that at our games. I think if there's anything COVID taught us, I knew this a long time ago, how important the fans were. I've seen it as a broadcaster. I saw it when I was a fan, growing up. But if COVID has taught us anything, it's that the fans are so vital to the sport, whatever the sport is. When I watched Copa America recently, and I watched the Euros, you could argue if you want. Somebody might say, well, ESPN did a better job than Fox. Somebody else says Fox was better. Somebody else says they were both great. Somebody else says neither one was good. But I will tell you this, the difference for me, the Euros were more exciting because there were fans there. No other reason. Both networks had fantastic announcers there. There were fantastic players and teams there. The difference was the fans. So they have a right to their opinion. Would love to hear from them.
There was a game 5, 6, 7 years ago in Barcelona when they were having a big problem with potential people rioting. So they shut down the arena, didn't have any fans in there. It was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen because they didn't pump in artificial fan noise or anything. And you could hear the whistles just echoed through the whole thing. You could hear all the players, talking. And of course it was in Spanish, so I didn't really understand anything, but it was very, very strange. And I was worried what was going to happen. And I think the artificial crowd noise makes it, I think they took it a little too far, like one step too far with that. But once the fans started coming back.
It was hard for the networks to adjust. And some wanted the fake nat in there. Some didn't want any, and it was personal preference, right? You might have liked something. I didn't like something. Somebody else liked it. It's personal choice, right? It's not factual. Like you can't say this was better than another. It's all opinion.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what the question we were talking right before we went live, and I wrote down a question. So when you do your outdoor games, are you always at the stadiums, or do you do those in a remote location?
Now, when I do games, I mean, before COVID, I would say most of the time I was in the stadium. Most of the time with Fox, I was always in the stadium. Since COVID. For Fox, I've been in studio calling these games. A few people have traveled, but not many. I hope that they start to travel again. We're hearing that they will. They have for some games, but not all. Like they traveled for the final of the Gold Cup and one of the semifinals they did. ESPN is just starting now to get on the road, but before they were doing things off studio. When I call games for the Philadelphia Union, home games, I am always at. Road games I do from 6 ABC television studios in Philadelphia. They've always done that. A lot of MLS teams do their road games off monitor. some travel. I couldn't tell you the percentage now, and especially since COVID, when everybody stopped, some teams are now going to start to travel again. But it might have been half and half. Some teams traveled and some didn't. Personal choice, sometimes based on finances, sometimes based on other things.
Sure. I've always wondered that. I mean, Phil Schoen and Ray Hudson, you can always tell they're in a studio somewhere because they announce one game live in one part of Spain, and then 2 hours later they're announcing another game live in another part of Spain. It's like, wait a minute, you guys didn't.
Yeah. Usually, Adam, the trick is, it used to be that if you didn't see announcers on camera, that was a sure sign that they were not there. But since COVID, you couldn't say that, right? Because they would show the announcers there. And there were times where I've done games where it looked like I was next to the analysts that I was working with, but I was on the East Coast and they were on the West Coast.
Oh, wow. Well, green screens are a magical thing. Yeah.
That's the power of television, that they could do that. So it could look like, you might look at it and say, well, they're social distancing. Yeah, they are, but one was on one coast and one was on the other coast. So just depends on how they want to do it. But
Sure.
But if you're watching an announcer do 2 games like in one day and they're in 2 different places, you can rest assured that he's not there. He or she is not there.
Do you think that's possible in the indoor game?
To call it off the monitor? Absolutely, yeah. I think it's like hockey. I think hockey is a tough sport to call off the monitor because you need to see it from up above, I think.
Yeah.
And with all the line changes, it's so important that you know who's on the ice. So I think out of all the sports to call off the monitor, I would think that hockey would be the most difficult. I think indoor soccer, because the players are more recognizable, right? They're not wearing helmets, face shields. I think you can see them. I think it wouldn't be as difficult to call. I don't believe, but I'm not sure if any of our teams have called games in this league off the monitor, but they certainly could do that if they wanted to. And I think that if our games are produced well, then there's no reason why they can't. If they're not produced well, then you're only as good as that feed that you're getting, right? So if I'm calling a game off the monitor and the producer, the director is not showing what's on the field, tough for me to call it.
Yeah, Milwaukee tried it a number of years ago in Mexico, where the 2 announcers were in an office trying to watch the feed off of YouTube or whatever it was at the time, and then re-announcing it. And let's just say it didn't work.
Yeah. I would tell you this though, Adam. There are people that have spoken to us informally, not formally, but informally, about whether or not we would be interested in doing something like this. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the NWSL, National Women's Soccer League, has a deal with Twitch, and they also have a deal with CBS Sports Network, and they do a lot of their games from studios in Florida,
okay,
where announcers are there calling the games. I'm not opposed to doing that if it makes financial sense and if the product is good.
Right.
I would never want to do a game somewhere just to save money. I wouldn't want to do that. The product has to be good. It has to be worth it, right? I mean, I'd rather spend more money, because sometimes it may cost you more money to do it there. I'd rather spend the extra and have it look good than skimp on it and have somebody say, well, they didn't want to spend the money.
I'm liking everything I hear. We've welcome Matt. I know Matt had a conflict
Hi, Matt.
Came up.
How are you?
How's it going? This is great. What an honor to be talking to you right now.
Matt's freezing up, right?
Yeah, Matt, you're kind of freezing up there a little bit.
You know,
Yeah.
Adam, before, when you and I were talking before we went on air, I was hearing you loud and clear, and now it's like a struggle. I'm barely hearing your questions, so I'm assuming you're hearing me well, though.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
Well, maybe we need to spend some more money on our broadcasting setup.
No, you were loud and clear before,
like
and I thought my hearing certainly hasn't hasn't gone south in the last half hour, I don't think.
You don't have like, don't turn into a pumpkin at 10:30 your time or
Yeah,
anything.
no, but I am usually asleep by now.
We'll let Matt ask a question or two, and then we'll let you go. I don't want to keep you
Yeah,
too
no, I'm
long.
fine. I'm good as long as you want.
So while Matt figures his thing out,
So I did.
Okay.
Yeah. This whole thing is new to me. I'm doing it just by my phone. So my first question to you is: so I've been listening to you on YouTube for quite a while now, and my question is: what is the best game you've ever called, indoor soccer wise?
The best game of indoor soccer that I've ever called?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Yes.
For indoor. I did so many indoor games years ago where the atmosphere was fantastic. I think it's hard to pick one. The one that I remember the most is probably the game I did in Tacoma. I want to say it was a game 6, and if Tacoma won, they had the balloons up in the rafters, and if Tacoma had won, they would have won the championship that year, and they didn't win. And I believe, was it 1987? I think they went to Dallas, and Dallas won a game 7. Does that sound right? Many years ago.
Sounds about right.
Jungle was playing, Preki was playing, Alan Hinton was coaching Seattle, and where we were broadcasting in the press box, you could see the balloons like right up above us, and they were supposed to be released when Tacoma won, and they didn't win. That game I remember so much about, but there were so many other games, like in Cleveland when they had 18,000 people. I don't remember like one. It's not like you asked me about outdoors. I remember games more because of 2 reasons. They were more recent, even though they were, 1990 and 1999. That's still more recent than the indoor, but also, the significance of those games. Like Women's World Cup, Brandy Chastain, and then the World Cup qualifier, Caligiuri's goal. I don't have that particular memory of an indoor game like that, but there were so many games that I called that the atmosphere was fantastic.
I
Nice.
still remember when the Bavarians scored on us when I was 13 with 6 seconds left at Soccer USA in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, but I don't remember a lot of other games I've watched.
There's so many games, to be honest, Matt and Adam, that sometimes somebody will say to me, I really like that game that you called, and they tell me the game. And after they walk away, I'll say to somebody else that I was with, I'll say, I can't even be sure I'd call that game. Like it was so long ago, and it'd been so many games. But if that fan believes it was me, they're probably right, because they made that connection, with that game. And so I would take them at their word on that. But I've called too many games to remember a lot about them. The special games though, like that 1999 Women's World Cup game, I can remember so much about, and the same thing with the game in Trinidad, just because those are games that have withstood the test of time. People are still talking about this decades later. So I think you have more of a tendency to remember those moments.
Sure. It's also easier for it's like you go to a grocery store and you see a cashier and you remember them by face and name, and they see 2,000 people a day.
Yeah.
And they have no idea who you are, but you
That's
know.
right. Same thing. Yeah.
Question from Eric Bergard said it was Dallas who won in 7 in Tacoma.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brad,
Was it 87? Did he say 87?
He did not say, but 87 is like a magical year for us in the indoor. What do we want to call it? The indoor banter. We've had questions of who is better, the players in 1987 or today, and that'll just rile up an entire Facebook group. But Brad wants to know, with the do you feel a lot of pressure with the broadcast, considering they're probably, as far as the fans are concerned, maybe one of the biggest issues in the game right now?
You mean with MASL?
Yes.
No, I don't feel pressure, because I think somebody said to me, you three guys are lucky in a sense that you've got a clean slate. You know, you're starting over, right? And so I think that that's a good thing. I think that we're looking at everything as progress. So my goal is not to look at what we have and say, I don't like this, or this isn't as good as it should be. I want to look at everything that we have and say, how do we make it better? So television, I don't feel pressure. We have ideas. I say we, like the three of us going into it. We have ideas of what we'd like it to look like. Will it look like that in November? I hope so, because we still have time to get this stuff done. But I don't feel pressure on it right now. If things don't happen the way we would like, maybe I'll feel it later. But right now, I don't.
Okay. Matt, did you want to ask another question?
What does Matt have behind him? All those things, jerseys, scarves.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's quite a collection.
My collection so far. Yeah,
That's impressive.
so far that's it. That's about 8 years worth.
8 years, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's about 8 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I've gone overboard in the last couple of years. It was only wave jerseys for me. And then I got a hold of the owner. I ran into the owner of Solis de Sonora down in St. Louis one year and asked him how I could get a jersey. And it was like a 9-month struggle for him to get a jersey from Mexico to me. And then after that, I bought the San Diego jersey, I bought a Tacoma jersey, and now it's just kind of blown up.
Yeah.
Kansas City, I'd love to buy one of your jerseys, but they're all in kid sizes.
You know what I think is one of the neat things about this job, I would say, is that, you know how when a team comes into a league, people talk about what's the name going to be? What are you going to name the team? And you hear all this talk about going back to the past, right? And should we take a name from the past? And I'm looking at the names that we have, and they're the same names that I was broadcasting for, right? I mean, they're iconic names in indoor soccer, right? So you've got the San Diego Sockers, you've got Milwaukee Wave, you've got the Baltimore Blast, Kansas City Comets, Dallas Sidekicks, San Diego Sockers, you know, the iconic name in the sport, Tacoma Stars. So many names that those are the names from before. So we don't even have to go back to some of those names. I think that's cool. It almost seems like I haven't left when I see those names.
That's cool. Yeah, we interviewed the guys from Cleveland Crunch before their season started.
Yeah.
And they just kind of found out they wanted to do an indoor team, and they looked around and saw that the trademark was open, and like, well, this is a no-brainer. Yeah. How do you not take this, you know? And I figured they have at least a couple of years just on name recognition alone that they'll be able to build up that fan base again.
Yeah, I think the name recognition is important too, because when you talk to people that don't know the league, I had people that know the sport really well, and they were asking me, why are you starting up a new league? And I said, this is not a new league, but it taught me that this is how far we have to go, because these are people, I don't want to say their names because it would embarrass them, but these are people that are involved in Major League Soccer, that are involved in international soccer, that write for various publications, that have radio shows, what have you, and they thought we were involved in a new league. But then when I told them what it was, and then I mentioned the names, oh yeah, okay, Baltimore Blast, I remember Baltimore Blast, San Diego Sockers, I know that name. So I think that helps us when we go to talk to people. There's a good memory of indoor soccer. And I've said this in other interviews before. We all have friends in this business. Shep has a ton of friends from when he played as a broadcaster, doing all other things that he's done. He was an agent before. Tozer won more games than any other coach in indoor soccer history, was a former player, a lot of friends in the game. And each one of us has told the same story, that everybody that's congratulated us, no one said, why'd you do it? You guys got to be crazy. Why would you want to do this? Not one. They were all excited for us. Some of our friends have wanted to join us in some capacity, whether it's a consultant, starting their own team, you know, in a certain market. They've asked us about possible expansion, coming on board as a sponsor, coming on board as some kind of a partner. So we want to use those friendships and relationships to help promote our league. And I think that's good. You know, I think if half the people that congratulated us said, yeah, I don't know if I'm saying congrats, but I'm not sure that's a good thing. That might have made us step back and think, why did we do this?
Sure.
But they were everyone, 100%, all
That's
on
great.
board. Former players, congrats, tweets, phone calls, emails, a lot of excitement around it.
I was worried. So, I mean, this fan base can be very, very, very negative at the smallest and slightest of changes. And when the announcement was made, I saw nothing but positive remarks. I didn't know what to think. I mean, like and I'll go on the air again and I'll apologize that I had no idea who you were by name until I heard your voice on the first broadcast. And then I'm like, oh, I've heard probably 50 games that you've announced in my lifetime. I haven't been involved. I played as a kid. I actually played the first game before the Wave played in the New Bradley Center in 1984 as a kid in a tournament. That's my claim to fame, even though no one knows what that even means. But I was out of sports for a long time until my daughter got into soccer when she was younger. And now she's out of soccer, so it's kind of a bittersweet there. But there's certain things that I've watched over the years, and it's always been U.S. women's national team because they're so much better than the men. Say that out loud. And yeah, I've definitely heard your voice. So that said, are you going to mention the MASL on your other broadcasts? Are you allowed to do that?
That would never come up. I mean, the only time I'll tell you this, like full disclosure, I mean, Shep Messing and I are managing directors of the Connecticut Fusion. It's a women's team, amateur team that plays in UWS, United Women's Soccer. And our team got to the Final Four this year in Texas, got to the final, lost in the final, but so proud of our young women that played on that team, college kids and beyond. Couldn't be prouder. We always expect to make the playoffs, but never thought, yeah, we're going to get, this was only our third year. So we never thought, yeah, we'll get to a Final Four, have a shot of winning it. But I've never mentioned that on a U.S. women's national team broadcast because it's not appropriate. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's like in the old days when old time announcers used to mention where they would get their haircuts or, where they would go grocery shopping. It was called payola. It's not, you know what I mean? Like there has to be a reason for it. So like, I'm always aware of these stories. So like there's Adrian Perez, who you may remember played for, was it San Diego?
Ontario.
Now he's playing in DC with DC United. He happens to be hurt right now, but like I'm aware of that story, and that would be something that's fair game. I could say that, he played indoors, right? I wouldn't force it in because I feel like it's not cheating, but you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of a better word for it. Matt, can you help me with that?
I'm working on it.
What's that?
I'm working on it.
Okay, you're working on it.
And that wasn't a very fair question. I do have a doozy of a question if you have time for one more.
I have time for 10 more if you have them.
I don't have 10. I do have one that may take the time of 10. So, and Alec in the chat had just kind of mentioned the same thing. It's really easy to cater to the old time soccer fans because like, and even us, Matt and I, we've been fans for almost a decade now in the new version of the sport. And it's easy for us because I'm going to watch every game as many games as possible during the season, as I have been the past few seasons. And when I can't watch them live, I'll watch them recorded, that kind of thing. How do you get the game to people who aren't these diehard fans? And the way I wrote the question the other day is, how do you make the game of indoor soccer relevant in what I call today's ADHD society, where there's so many things coming at them from so many different directions of people, and they're just all over the place and shiny object here, shiny object there. How do you capture that audience?
Okay, there's three kinds of groups that we're trying to get to, and you've addressed one of them, right? So I think there are fans of the indoor game that we currently have We want to keep them engaged, keep them wanting to come back and supporting our product. I think that there's people that stop coming to games that now are hearing more about it because of our involvement, Shep, Keith, myself. I think they want to give us a shot. People that used to go to indoor games and now they don't go anymore. Now they're hearing more about it. They know the Sockers are playing, Milwaukee's playing, St. Louis is playing. And I think that they'll give us a shot. Then it's up to us to keep them, right? But then I think there's two other groups that we can go after. One is the young kids that have no idea who Steve Jungle was, or who Stan Terlecki was, or Julie V, or Shep Messing, or Keith Tozer, or any of those players, Hector Marinaro. I mean, we're talking about kids that are maybe teenagers right now. But how great of a game is indoor soccer for a 17-year-old kid who likes to play, FIFA games online on his cell phone, who likes hockey and the speed of hockey and the way it works, who doesn't like baseball because it's too slow, can't get into the NFL or basketball. This is a perfect sport for young people, I think, right? So how do we get them? They've never been to an indoor game. How do we get them, right? So I think to me that's marketing. How do we sell ourselves in terms of social media? So that's another group. And the other group that we want to get is, I don't want to say the outdoor snob, because that wouldn't be a good way to phrase it.
You're right, though.
But the person that only watches outdoor soccer can only watch outdoor soccer in this country until, I want to say, November sometime, when MLS Cup is awarded, right? Then you can't watch a game in person at a high level until March, probably, right? In this country. So they're watching the games on TV, right? They're watching the English Premier League, they're watching La Liga, they're watching Germany, Italy, France, especially with Messi now. Assuming that's a done deal. I haven't been on the internet as much as I normally am today, but how do we get those people in December and January come to a game? So I think that's part of our challenge, right? Because if you're an outdoor fan, to me, you're still a soccer fan, right? I mean, soccer is soccer, whether it's men's soccer, women's soccer, college soccer, indoor soccer, it's all soccer, right? So we want to sell it. We want to promote it. And if we can work with our outdoor partners and our futsal partners and our NWSL teams and our USL teams and NISA teams, we want to do that, right? If we have a team, we have an indoor team in the same city where there's an outdoor team, we want to work with them. Why wouldn't we? It's foolish, right? When the new MLS team comes to St. Louis, I'm sure the Ambush would love to work with them. Why wouldn't we? We promote each other, right? Have watch parties. When one team is playing, the other one's not playing. So why not support it? So those are areas where we think we can go. We think there's a lot of people that stop going to games. I think after COVID, there might be some more people that now really want to come out to games because they're so sick of staying at home and wearing the mask and not being able to do what they normally do, that I think we may get a bump there too. But there's lots of places that we can look to attract new fans to the sport. But we want to make sure we keep the ones that we already have, because they've supported this league now for several years. And we want to keep them. We want to keep them happy and just give them more fans to surround themselves with. Better experience for them too, and the players.
Like it.
It was a long question, but I gave you a long answer.
I mean, and I knew it wasn't a softball question for sure, because it's how long is a piece of string? But I like the I think as we kind of said before, I think Matt and I wanted to talk to Keith first, just because we knew more of Keith recently. I've been at games where Keith was coaching in his last couple of years. I wanted to kind of start there, but for me personally, I'm passionate, fanatic insane about some of these broadcasts and the social media. I come down on a lot of teams, especially my own. Shame on you, Milwaukee Wave, for not being involved on social media. And I think it's a great idea to have a dedicated person for communications and media. I think the dealing with schedules and rules and all the other things that like a standard commissioner would have to deal with, there's almost not enough time to deal with that anything else.
There's so much going on, guys, and I think that ever since they announced the three of us, I mean, every day there's like Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, a proposal to look at this, a proposal to look at that. Like, we're literally involved in everything, whether it's referees headsets, whether we change this rule or that rule, whether you have video review or whether you don't have it, whether you have this or this. And that's just refereeing, right? What are we doing about uniforms? What are we doing about soccer balls? What are we doing about a television deal? How are we improving the website and the content on the website? There's just so many areas, expansion. How far do we want to go? Where do we want to look? We don't want teams. We made that decision when we came in June. We didn't want anybody to come in as a new team this year. We set them up to fail. They come in next year, even if they had the money tomorrow and said, "Here's the deal. We'll do it next year. We'll take the money now because that shows your interest, right? But do it next year."
Yeah.
We don't want teams. We want teams like the ones that I mentioned to you before, because the reason why they still have the same names, they're still here. That's what we want. We don't want what happened before, for whatever reason, to like a Mississauga who lasted a very short time. A team in Florida, same thing. We don't want people coming in for 2 years and then they're gone. We want to build rivalries that make sense, geographical rivalries. Love to get some help for Tacoma. They're by themselves pretty much right in the Pacific Northwest. Could we get Vancouver, to come in, or Portland to come in at some point? Hope so, right? Could we get somebody closer to San Diego? Could we find a fit somewhere where St. Louis and Kansas City are? What about Florida? There's so many places, that we can go to, but that's for the future. It's not today.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I like one of our shows. This is a while back when they announced that they were looking for a new commissioner. There were three of us at the time, and we each did a segment on what I would do as commissioner. And one of the first things is no expansion. Just cut it out, at least for the season. Make sure everything stabilizes. You don't want to do like exactly what you said. You don't want to have a team come in and all of a sudden they're gone because they can't pay bills, or
right.
Their owner runs off with the money, or a number of other things that have happened in the past that we definitely don't want that to happen anymore.
No. Adam, people will remember this, that one of the things when they write the book about the success of Major League Soccer will be whatever year that was. I don't want to say the year and be off, but whatever it was, they contracted by 2 teams, and people thought that's the end of MLS. They took out Tampa Bay, as I recall, and Miami at that time. And a lot of people thought that's the end of them. And from what has come out later, it almost was the end of them. But Philip Anschutz, Robert Kraft, Lamar Hunt stepped in and saved the league, right? But it's not a sign of weakness if you lose teams, if it makes you stronger, right? But we don't want to be in that position where we're losing teams. We want to be in a position where we're gaining teams, but teams that are going to be here for a long time.
Sure. I'd like to see my goal for the sport is to see the same teams 2 seasons in a row. And I have not seen it in 10 years. So
same. You mean the same from the league standpoint, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It seems like there's always been that 16, 17, 18. I think we were up to 20 or 21 at one point. But then there's 3 or 4 teams that change throughout the time. And one will go and then they'll come back, or they'll go again. And Solis de Sonora was in the league twice, and now they're gone again. kind of, with Chihuahua and everything. But yeah,
I think one of the goals, Adam, is that if we can boost this league up to where we think it can go, we will attract very prominent people to come in with us. And there's already been talks with others that own other sports franchises, major people. But again, they're exploratory. There's nothing definite. Can't say names because of confidentiality, but I can tell you that there's interest, in this league. And if we can make the improvements that we think we can, then that means expansion fees will go up. The higher those expansion fees go, the more money it will take to come into this league, which means you're going to get somebody that's better financed.
Sure.
And it will make every other team in this league more valuable than they are today, right? Because if you can boost the franchise fee, let's say 10 times what it is today, it makes everybody's franchise that much better, right? It's like selling your house. If all the houses in your neighborhood go up in value, yours is too.
Yep. I like it. I like it. All right, I think we're gonna call it for the night. I don't want to keep you. We kind of said 30 minutes. It's already been 60. So, yeah, Gio, we're not talking about promotion and relegation. Sorry. I know that comes up in MLS all the time, and no, we're not doing that. But yeah, no, I think Matt's been having problems with his phone dying. Yeah, he just typed in the YouTube chat that his phone keeps freezing.
Yeah. Well, Adam, we can do this again. Happy to do it again. We want to be as transparent as we can. We want to be out there, so somebody wants to do these shows. There's no reason for us to say no. We want to be on.
Awesome. Anything else we can do? So there's kind of two main Facebook groups for fan groups for MASL, for indoor soccer. We kind of split off one due to some stuff that you don't need to even know about, but we want to do whatever we can to help the league. And sometimes helping the league is kind of opening the wounds and showing everyone how bad it looks. And sometimes it's praising and doing shows like this. We want to do another fundraiser show. We had a fundraiser show last year. We thought it turned out pretty well, but anything we can do to help, just please ask. We're not really looking for anything in return. Maybe play one of my band's songs on a segment here and there, things like that. But yeah, anything we can do, we're happy to do it. I'll
tell you what, Adam, any help that anybody wants to give is always appreciated. Constructive criticism is always the best. If we're making mistakes, when I say we as a league, we should be called out on it, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes, right? It's fair game. If somebody makes a decision, if Keith has to suspend a player, you can criticize him for that. I mean, those are the decisions that they make, right? If we have a television deal and you don't like it, you can call us out on it, and I might say to you, Adam, it's the best that we could do, but we want to be as transparent as we can be. But if we make mistakes, it's fair game,
Sure.
I think the only time criticism hurts is when people don't have all the facts, behind it. And I've seen so many people criticized over the years for things, and I'm thinking it's not their fault,
Right.
because I've been in that position before, and I know what that person was going through, and I know it's not their fault. So that's the only part of criticism that I think a lot of us don't like, is when it comes from areas where you're thinking, boy, how do they get to that conclusion?
There's a lot of that in this sport, unfortunately.
That's all right. It's all sports, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
It's all sports.
Yeah.
But it's all, like I said, it's all fair game. Everybody should be doing the best that they can. And I think everybody's heart is in the right place. Passion is in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Keith, Shep, and I, everything that we do are doing this to advance this league, not to advance ourselves. It's to advance this league. That's why we took it. At this stage of our lives and at this stage of our careers, it's something that we didn't have to do. It's something that we wanted to do. We're doing this because we want to do it. We want the indoor game to be as good as it can possibly be. And if it can't get back to where it was in those glory days because of 100 reasons, That's okay. But can we get it better than it is today? And can we get it as close to those magical years as we can? That's our goal.
Nice. I love to hear it. Yeah. We'll reach out for sure. We may wait for, the season to start or something, but we'll definitely have you on the show again.
Sure.
I think we're going to be set up with talking to Keith and Shep here in the next month or two, and ask some of the similar questions and some new ones. And good luck with things.
Thank you. And we'll have more answers for you as we get closer to the season.
Sure.
I'm telling you about these informal meetings. In 2 weeks, these meetings will be formal. Maybe in 3 weeks we announce something. But right now it's too early. There's so much going on. I think the schedule is the most important thing right now. Would like to get that out as soon as possible. But as you know, we're not number one in these arenas.
Yep.
We might be a third tenant, sometimes a fourth tenant. And so we have to wait for others. San Diego is going to be very lucky, I guess, because when their building gets done, they can call the shots. And I think the more arenas that we can get into where we have a little bit more clout, a little bit more power, I think it will help us with our scheduling.
Definitely. Yeah, I think from the fan standpoint, they just want as much communication as possible, so they can critique it, of course.
Yeah,
but
that's all right.
That's one thing especially Facebook posts, more social media, more anything you guys can provide would be good for the fans, I think.
That's all right. I personally, Adam, anybody that knows me, I'm not a social media guy.
Sure.
Twitter is so negative, I stay away from it. But with what I'm doing with the league, we do have people that will make sure social media is well taken care of. That I can promise you. It won't be me.
Sure.
But it will be somebody dedicated to that. Our social media, it'll take a little while. You will see our social media improve quite a bit. You will see our website content improve quite a bit, both in terms of the quantity, the quality, and the new items that will be out there. Some things that media will be able to vote on, some things that fans will be able to vote on, so we'll make it more interactive. Those are things that we think we can fix not only easily, but also quickly. And that I think people will notice this stuff. And I think that as we try to get more things done, we need to show people some things that they can see that's tangible, right? So if you see that we don't have a schedule out yet, but damn, that website looks pretty good today, or we don't have this player signed, but oh, I see this announcement was made. That's new. I think the more we can do that kind of stuff, it'll help us.
Sure. Yeah, we were in contact a lot with Ken last season. So if you have any questions for us, want feedback on anything, we're happy to beta test and whatever we can do.
Let's work together. We'll get it done.
Definitely. All right. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you very much for staying. And we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks,
Adam.
Easy, JP. And thanks to Matt, who's no longer with us there, I guess.
He's in the chat. He says, thank you very much. You need to come back on at some point, and we'll fix his internet connection beforehand.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy, JP. All right. That was JP Dellacamera. Matt's still not here. Thanks, everyone, for hanging around. We're going to call it a night. We'll look for interviews with both Keith Tozer and Shep Messing, probably on separate shows. We'll look to do that as soon as we can get them scheduled. I'm going to offer up other days than Monday nights. We kind of moved it to Mondays to stay away from the Friday night games, but as anyone knows who watched us last year at this time, we were on Friday nights. I'm going to offer up a couple other options for them. And until then, take it easy. Love you guys. Have a good night.